New York. Oh boy. So if you haven't heard, I don't know how you haven't heard, but if you haven't heard, there was a mass shooting in New York. Over in a subway, I think it was on the N train. A black supremacist went into the train, lit a bunch of smoke bombs, and just opened fire on people in the train. I think he hit about 10 people or so. It's not really showing anyone actually dying from it, which is good. But this is another attack that we found by a black supremacist, a black extremist, black nationalist who frankly hates anyone who just isn't black. He hated on the Supreme Court nominee, not because she defended pedos, but because she's married to a white man. Talk about how disappointed that is and how terrible that is. He went out, there's videos of him going just down the street, insulting people based on the color of their skin, looking at Asians and calling them slanted-eyed and stuff like that. Like just, and not, mind you, not in a joking way at all, right? Not in the, you know, as you might start riffing with your Asian friend or black friend or white friend where you kind of just start making a couple jokes here and there at each other's expense. No. This wasn't friendly. This was him just actively just trying to be as terrible as he could possibly be. He has tons of videos that I wish I could show you, but unfortunately he says the N-word way too much in those videos, and that would get me taken away because, well, I'm too pale for that sort of content to be allowed on YouTube. Mind you, though, where he posted these videos was YouTube. On YouTube, he was posting videos about how much he hated people of a different race, of how he talked about how they all need to die and how they need to be exterminated and how he wouldn't mind being the one to pull the trigger. Which, of course, he inevitably eventually did. They were allowed to stay on YouTube. I make a video saying how when I went to go vote, because we don't have ID laws in North Carolina, they gave me someone else's ballot. And I'm just going to leave it at that because if I go any more detail, they might give me another strike on the channel. I never once asserted that there was any problem with the election. I just simply said, I don't like the fact that because I didn't have because I didn't have to show my ID, they gave me someone else's ballot that said, here you go vote. I found that kind of disturbing. I got a strike on my channel for talking about that. He goes on his channel and rants about how he wants to kill people of a different race. No problem whatsoever. No problem whatsoever. I make a dumb video of the woman in Canada saying honk honk is akin to saying Hail Hitler, and it jumps to a cut of Hitler giving a speech and a bunch of trucks going by all honking. I get another strike for hate speech. He actively says he wants to kill people of a different race, and yet he was allowed to be on YouTube, he was allowed to be on Twitter, he was allowed to be on Facebook. Never was he censored. Never was he censored. Now, there's a lot of things you could blame and find at fault that could have caused or could have actually, helped stop this incident. The fact this guy was on the FBI's watch list and they took him off the watch list and just kind of let him go about his day. The fact he has a lot of prior arrests in his record, which means he probably, frankly, should have been in jail even longer. But Mayor Adams, the great, they said, oh, he was going to be tough on crime, he'd be tough on crime. Adams says social media firms should have flagged the alleged subway shooter's vile rants. Now, I just said the same thing, except here's the thing. I'm not the mayor of New York. This is a deflection. So, we have this right here. Adams saying, they should have flagged his vile rants. Mayor Adams said Wednesday that social media firms should have flagged the behavior of the suspect. I thought they were trying to say something else there. The suspected in-train shooter Frank James by alerting law enforcement to his vile online rants before the terrifying attack. He was already on an FBI watch list. He was already on a watch list and was removed. They knew he was making these videos. The government already knew. This is why when people say, oh, if only we had a more extensive background check, we'd be able to stop these mass shooters. No! This guy was on a watch list. And openly spouting out this racist stuff. And we still weren't able to stop it. And you want to tell me a gun registration will actually stop it? No. No. What would have stopped this? Is for one, if he's on a watch list, keep him on the damn watch list, especially when he's making videos like this. But another way is, I don't know, you fix the crime issue in New York. Stabbings have gone through the roof. Shootings have gone through the roof. People are being pushed in front of trains. Black supremacists are attacking Jews and Asians left and right through New York. And I can't even quote the actual crime statistics because, oh, what do you know? It could get you a strike on your channel because you might be asserting certain beliefs for talking about crime statistics, yet the crime statistics do not lie. Right now, there's been a massive rise in black supremacist attacks, not just in New York, but around the country. You had the black supremacist attack over on the Christmas parade last December, where he went to a about 99% white town and drove through a Christmas parade, killing multiple people. And what did the media do? They ran cover for him by saying, oh, it wasn't a black man who was driving who did the killings, it was an SUV. SUV crashed into a crowd of people. It did not crash. A black supremacist tried to go around and kill a bunch of white people. You had the shooting of a mayor candidate, I believe, over in Louisville. Why was he shot? Oh, because he's Jewish. Who shot him? A black supremacist. A person who was part of the Nation of Islam, I believe. Which, I mean, in itself should about be registered as a terrorist group. All three of these people, actually, one thing they have in common is a love for people like Louis Farrakhan, right? So, we're not allowed to, or the media at least, doesn't at all talk about these issues. About what's happening right now with black supremacy. And guess what this is going to create? This is going to create a society where we start looking at race more and more and more. And I don't like that. I don't feel comfortable with that. All right? I don't like the fact that we're having to point out that there are racists going around trying to kill people based on the color of their skin. Because guess what? It has happened. There's plenty of white people who've done it too, right? Yeah, you look at the church shooting where the, racist white guy went through and shot a bunch of black people at church. Listen, it's on both sides to a certain degree, but only one side ever gets talked about. Only one side ever gets punished. Only one side is ever accused day in and day out. What we should be doing is criticizing any form of this Marxist ideology, of this idea that we can actually separate people on characteristics that really don't mean a damn thing, right? The whole idea going around Marxism is you have to create some sort of class struggle. And what the critical race theorists have discovered when you read people like Robert DiAngelo, I think I have the book right here behind right behind my camera, unfortunately. So this is the book Critical Race Theory. I'll hold it actually about right here. That actually goes into detail, and this is their works, this is their writing on what they believe. It's been called a little bit like the Bible of critical race theory. I'm going to actually, a couple things to say, so I want to say here. So, right here. So, in the book, one thing they talk about is the idea that in Marxist ideology, they realized that they could separate people based on class. But in the American context, the best way to separate people, to create this division, is based on race, because, of course, our admittedly bad racial history. In this book, they talk about the idea that the only way to fix past discrimination is with future discrimination. The only way to fix, let me say again, the only way to fix past discrimination is through future discrimination. Here's the deal. Discrimination was not evil because it affected black people. It was evil because it's discrimination based on race. Discrimination based on race is evil in itself. It's not evil because of the results that came from it. It's an evil idea by its very nature. So to say we're going to then use this evil idea then for good is absolutely moronic, but they don't look at it this way. They look at it as how can they gain power? How can they gain power over the system? So this is their ideology. This is what we're up against right now. More black supremacists are shooting people left and right, killing people left and right, and we're not allowed to talk about it because we have to just find a way to push for a more racial, what they call a racial awakening. And that's what, again, not what I'm calling it, that's what they call it. And I'm sorry if this gets a little off topic about what the mayor said, but I think I'm going to actually hand off here. So obviously the mayor just trying to push blame outside the city, but I actually kind of really want to hit this point here instead, because I think this is actually really important. Now that I have already started on this rant, I think gone past the point of return. When it comes to the Marxist ideology and how they want to set things up, and I really encourage you to buy and read what they write. Buy and read what they write. I have this book right here. I have another book on critical race theory that they wrote. Actually back there. I even have that one terrible book written by the evil guy with the mustache prior to World War II. So I got that book back there too. I've read through a lot of these just terribly evil books. I got the Communist Manifesto back there. When you really see what their dynamic, what their real purpose is, what the dynamics they're really trying to push for is when you can really start breaking down why things are happening the way they are. We are not talking much about the New York attacker anymore, if you noticed. Already today, what I've noticed is almost no reporting on it. No reporting on it. No big news story about what's happening in America. No. Nothing. No big story saying, well, you know, these politicians are probably to blame for this sort of attitude. They've encouraged this sort of actions through their rhetoric. No, none of that. None of that. Silence. Except on a slight issue involving gun violence in general. And even then, they're starting to shy away with what happened in New York and now trying to go with what's happening across the country. And what's happening across the country is you have these cities who are liberal hellholes who have already banned guns in most cases, having an increase in shootings. Every day you can find a video of someone being killed in New York. Every day you can find a video of someone being killed, it seems, in Chicago and Detroit and California and in Seattle. It's just nonstop. And all these places have already pretty much banned guns for the most part. Or they've at least been trying. It's very limited at the very least, right? But they don't care. What they care about is pushing an agenda, pushing an idea. So the minute we find out this shooter is black, we can no longer talk about any other aspect of the shooting. In fact, when you look at some of the news reports of it, they haven't even reported the man's black. They haven't reported at all that he's a black supremacist, that he was pushed to do this through the ideas of a racial supremacy. And again, when we ignore this, when we ignore this for too long, what we do is we give ammunition to people we don't want to give ammunition to. All right, the actual far-right Nazis, like the ones that you would actually call like skinheads and all. Weird to say since I am bald, but the actual skinheads and things, they have these stats and they will use these stats. And here's the problem: when we don't acknowledge these stats at all, that puts the truth in their corner, which is dangerous, which is very dangerous, right? Because we don't want the truth in their corner. We want to have truth in our corner because we're the ones who are morally right on the side of saying don't judge people based on the color of their skin. But when we're not allowed to talk about issues like this, when we're not allowed to talk about the rise of crime in certain communities, we give more ammunition to other racial groups who have their own motives. And we're going to start seeing a rise in what's happening. Richard Spencer talked about the idea that what's happening in America is actually kind of good for his movement because it's creating a white awakening. This idea where people are starting to identify by their whiteness. I don't want to identify by any of this crap. I don't want to identify by the fact I'm white. I don't want to identify the fact I'm anything other than who I am as a person. That's all I really want at the end of the day. And for the most part, I just want to be left alone. But this story here really shows, what's happening in New York just really shows that at least what the media's true intentions are here. And it isn't to stop crime. It isn't to protect the community. It isn't to protect the people. It is simply to empower themselves more and more and more and to solidify their voting base more and more and more. And that is it. That is it. That was completely off topic of what I thought I was going to talk about. Again, just so you understand, the original title of the middle segment was going to be the mayor trying to subvert or to push away from, his responsibility of the issue. Yep, no one's talking about, no one's really taking responsibility for these policies in these cities. It goes without saying, because they want to solidify, of course, their own power. Thanks so much for watching that clip. If you want to watch the live show, it is Thursdays at 9 o'clock. Again, that is 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But if you don't want to wait that long, we got some other awesome content out there. All you got to do is click on this video over to the right, and it will take you right on to the next one. Either way, thanks so much for watching, and we'll be talking again real soon.